is going to be by myself, Ed Capone, and Ron Howard, the Senior Hydrometeorological Analysis and Support Forecaster. We're going to pretty much continue the same format as we had during our spring outlooks. This is the first monthly water resource outlook that we'll be doing each month. And we'll look at some of the similar things we did before, as well as tropical outlook and the El Nino ENSO conditions. As we look at our view from space in the MODIS satellite Aqua, the polar orbiter, you can see the true color, a lot of green showing up. Vegetation is sparked in much of the area, both coastal southern Long Island, the islands of the Cape, Outer Cape, and the high areas of the Adirondacks, white and greens in northwestern Maine, where as normal vegetation is a little behind. Evapotranspiration is about 0.1 inches per day from our Penman equation and from Koparaz evapotranspiration sites. We look at the Northeast River Forecast Center service area. We did have the big snows. We got very little flooding this spring. The map on the left shows a 10-day period in mid-April. We normally have plenty of snow melt from the north with just a few areas, widely scattered areas, isolated of minor flooding. You had minor flooding to maybe a foot over minor flood stage this year. You see the major flooding there up in eastern Maine on at Washburn due to ice jamming. We did have some ice jamming in the Buffalo Creeks, the Mohawk River near Schenectady, and some of the rivers in Maine. The graph on the right is showing where does spring flooding occur, mostly at the NERFC. In the last 15 years, we have a number of stations here, like the Lower Connecticut. It's flooded 20 times in 15 years in the spring, January to May. So it floods every year. And then the stations indicated in the red there, Hartford, Middletown, or Middle Haddam, they flooded this year also, minor flood. And down a little further, we had North Chichester, also minor flooded. It floods every other year according to this graph here. So what has happened in the service area in May? We've been dry and we've been warm. These graphics are courtesy of Northeast Regional Climate Center. And the upper left is showing the precip deficit we've had, a quarter to a half inch if we're lucky in eastern southern New England. It's been a little wetter out in the western part of the Mohawk and part of the Finger Lakes area. Center graphic is showing, just how much percent of normal, 25 to 50% of normal, if we're lucky. And we've been warmer by anywhere from 2 to 6 or 7 degrees above normal. Big turnaround in May. 90 to 80-day precipitation departures continue. The dry regime, anywhere from 4 to below normal for the 90-day and the 180-day. We're alleviated a little bit on the extreme coast of New England in a month or two period during the past 6 months, but basically below normal across our entire area. Which brings us to the drought monitor. And working with our partners, we collaborated moving the D0 into the D1 area of moderate drought. This is basically talking about a below normal precipitation, below normal stream flow drought, increased fire danger with the duff layer, we're pretty dry as the vegetation comes out. Just to the upper left of the drought monitor graphic is the crop moisture index, which is about normal for the ag community. Is just starting to get their things going, so it's normal, but soon to trend dry if we continue with this pattern. And the lower right is the longer-term Palmer drought index, showing the precip deficiencies. So as I mentioned, the partners have shifted into the drought D1 moderate drought mode for this precipitation anomaly. The CPC seasonal drought outlook. Although there is not a clear climate anomaly signaling favoring below normal precipitation for the Northeast, current conditions are likely to continue to degrade as evapotranspiration increases during summer months. Therefore, the CPC is calling for a persistent and possibly expanding of the dry conditions across the Northeast, with stream flows are already low and is indicated in that brown area. From the USGS real-time stream flow conditions, of course, we see a blob of red over central southern New England, indicating below normal stream flows. I've highlighted Massachusetts and Connecticut, where we're below the 10 percentile, much below normal in much of the area, with many record lows for the date in stream flow. So this is the time of year where you normally come off our high seasonal flows, and we're already in May pretty low. USGS current groundwater conditions, the slow melt helped the eastern New England groundwater gauges to kind of remain in a normal regime. But as you head inland through Massachusetts and into New York, as you can see with the map and the Schenectady graph on the right, in April we came up to about normal. It's Schenectady in the groundwater category, but pretty much below the record here as we go into later May. Soil moisture conditions at the Water Center, National Water Center last week. We were looking at a couple of newer models that are being tested, and these are run daily based on 28 years of climatology, and they show the millimeter departure from anomaly of the total soil column down to 4 meters, or you can look at the top 1 meter. But the soils are drying out pretty quickly. You can do some looping of this in the last 2 weeks to look at the data. These are the new gridded soil moisture products. Water supply lake levels, New York City system is about normal, which it should be after the snow melt got them out of the deficit of 20% below normal to just about normal now. Quabbin and Situate, Boston and Providence's water supply about normal, and Lake Champlain, we're right about normal here in late May at around just under 98, 97 feet. Our short-term forecast, deterministic forecast, of course, we have nothing going to flood stage, and as systems come in, you can look at the 3 to 7 day Met model ensemble forecast to see what the models are saying as far as precip temperature, and calling that in the hydrologic models to see if we get any potential for higher flood levels or flood stages, but there's nothing here showing up. And Ron, senior HAZ forecaster, will take this portion.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Most of you know me. I'm Ron Horwood. I am the senior HAZ forecaster here, and I came in this morning for my first of several shifts working the QPF weather side of the house. The image on the left was our 48-hour QPF issued this morning. We have a sharp cold front that's moving southeast from Canada that's going to pass through the region today and this evening. Very strong dynamics with it. Unfortunately, moisture is really limited, so we're just going to be cranking out some showers basically across northern New England and especially Maine. And even though it's Memorial Day weekend, it could be cold enough tonight in far northern Maine to get some snow mixed in with that rain. So it's a very cold air mass coming in over the weekend. The longer term QPF forecast from the NCEP down in Washington on the right shows the 7-day QPF, and basically the pattern we're in is a pattern of cold frontal passages. So when we get into May and we get a south-southwest flow ahead of the cold front, it's very stable in a lot of southern and eastern New England because it's coming off the cold Atlantic waters. So basically, the best chance for convection along these cold fronts is going to be across far northern New England and also across interior New York State. And so you can see that basically the highest QPF over the next 7 days is across central and western New York State. And even there, it's pretty light, only around an inch. So no widespread heavy rains are seen over the next week to 10 days. I will mention that some of the models have been showing a subtropical type system out about a week to 10 days out, but they're all over the place with it. So if you hear anything about that on the news or anything, it is something we're looking at. It's coming out from the eastern Atlantic, but we're just going to have to monitor it right now. The 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day outlooks, dry. Actually, the top, warmer than normal. Pretty strong signals. We have a big East Coast ridge building, so we're going to have basically a southwest flow. And with the drought conditions in place, that should really even help it warm up to higher temperature levels during the day. The only place that might be actually cooler than this is along the coast, because we're going to, again, at the south coast of New England and probably far down East Maine, it's going to get a lot of southwesterlies, which can be kind of bone chilling this time of year. The longer range guidance from headquarters down in Washington is calling for at least precipitation to approach, if not get a little bit above normal, but probably especially across far western New York State, as I mentioned, where conditions are most favorable for convection in this type of weather pattern. Looking ahead to June, the temperature forecast continuing to show an enhanced probability for warmer than normal temperatures hugging the East Coast. And usually when we get that, we have kind of a Bermuda high type ridge. So again, the precip would more likely be to the west, but there's really no clear signal for precip on the June outlook at this point. I'll let Ed handle this one.
Yeah, one of the things we thought we'd look at this season is the climate forcing model of 2 weeks. So what you're seeing here is the week 1 and week 2, week 1 on the left, week 2 on the right, precipitation anomalies. And the signal in the northeast on week 1 is pretty dry. And the signal on the one on the right is normal to slightly above normal, which matches CPC. So it's just another way of looking at this. I also wanted to include the evolution of the El Nino, the ENSO. As of this week, all 4 phases, 1 and 2, 3, 3 and 4, and 4, are anywhere from 1 to 2.1 degree above C. And you can see the trend here is the El Nino getting stronger through this whole range from just off of the west coast of South America into past the date line. And the IRI, International Research in CPC, you can see the large swing here and where they think this is going. About the median is moderate El Nino. And the graphic on the right is NCEP's plot of where they think this is going, and the median is to a strong El Nino. And why is this a concern for us is because we really think it affects the northeastern U.S. seasonal precipitation. We look at March 2010 as a moderate to moderately strong El Nino. So with people out at UCAR, Dave Valley, and myself are looking at precip data and all the past moderate to strong El Ninos to see what that suggests as a seasonal type heavy precip event, anywhere from late fall into the spring. And also the effect on the hurricane development in the main source region this year could be limited due to a stronger El Nino. And as Ron was talking about earlier, at this time of year, we also look at the sea surface temperatures, and they're still pretty chilly around New England after the winter, anywhere from upper 40s to low 50s south of New England to low to mid 40s east of New England. And we kind of look at this because frontal systems that come through the east here, anywhere from a line of eastern Long Island into New London to Worcester into Portsmouth, New Hampshire, south and east of that, this marine effect usually knocks the strength of the storms down. We kind of lose out on precipitation here. We'll see how that goes this year. The temperatures have increased and are closer to normal, but still pretty cool.
So I'll come back here. This is the surface forecast map for the 25th of May, later this weekend. And as you can see, we have a large area of high pressure covering much of the Atlantic, ridging back toward the Carolina coast. Almost kind of like a Bermuda high, not quite, but in any event, that's causing a lot of southwesterlies, and the main thrust of deep precip is going to be coming up through the Mississippi River Valley, so well to our west. And this is the accompanying 500 millibar chart. You can see that a southeast United States ridge, when we see this, the southerly flow way to the west, pumping a lot of deep moisture up through the Mississippi River Valley into the eastern plains. But our flow is kind of dry and almost kind of like a wintertime flow with a fast jet stream going from west-northwest to east-southeast across southeastern Canada. Further on out, looking toward the 31st of May, which would be a week from Sunday. There's where the hope for some precip may come into play. We'll see how it pans out. We got a kind of a projection of perhaps a stalled frontal system lying near the south coast of New England. So if we can get some moisture pooling along that front, perhaps we can get some showers. But the QPF, even in there, is not that great. And again, fronts moving into southern New England, unless they really stall and you can get a good southerly feed into them, tend to be pretty dry this time of year. And the accompanying upper level flow during that time period, again, a large upper level low is across northern Labrador and south of Greenland, and the basic 500 millibar flow is out of the west-northwest into northern New England. To get really good precip, we'd like to see a lot more southerly flow at 500 coming up toward the region. So I'm not overly impressed with the chances for significant precipitation over the next week to 10 days, to say the least.
That's it for the briefing, and thank you for bearing with us during the time we had some technical difficulties. And any questions from anyone? Okay, thank you.